My sister humiliated me in front of our entire family at Thanksgiving after I took the blame for her car crash. When I tried to speak up, my dad glared and hissed, "Don't embarrass us further." I walked away in silence. Now, a year later, she's begging me to save her from our parents. Growing up, I thought my parents treated me and my younger sister Bella equally, until I was 10 years old. It was Bella's 9th birthday, and Mom had planned an elaborate party at our favorite trampoline park. But as the guests arrived and gifts piled up, Mom suddenly declared a rule. Every present brought for Bella had to be shared with me too. Bella's face fell, her excitement fading into silent hurt. Confused, I quietly whispered, "Mom, isn't it Bella's birthday?" But she shot me a stern glare and whispered harshly, "Don't you dare question me." After everyone left, Bella silently handed me half of her gifts, barely holding back tears. From that day forward, my eyes opened to a pattern. Whenever Bella earned something, like a certificate for perfect attendance or a prize at the school science fair, my parents would either brush it off or redirect praise toward me. And whenever she made a mistake, even small ones like spilling juice, she was grounded for days or forced to skip meals. Unable to bear it, I became Bella's secret ally. When she was forced to skip dinner, I'd hide granola bars in her backpack or sneak sandwiches under her door. When our parents locked her in her room for getting bad grades, I'd quietly unlock her window so she could at least feel the sun. But everything changed one autumn afternoon when Ella was 16. She had finally earned her driver's license, and our parents grudgingly allowed her to use the family car. But she accidentally crashed it, scraping the side badly against our garage. When I found her panicking in the driveway, I immediately offered to cover for her, even though our parents would be furious. I told them it was my fault, that I'd taken the car without permission and crashed. My mother slapped me, and my father yelled until his face turned red, grounding me for months. Ella stayed silent the whole time. In the days that followed, Ella became strangely distant. At dinner, she'd snicker with our parents when they insulted my supposed recklessness. "Honestly, it's embarrassing having a sister who can't control herself," she'd say mockingly. At first, I thought it was a coping mechanism, but her digs increasingly more vicious. Then came Thanksgiving. Our house was filled with relatives, laughter, and chatter. When dessert arrived, Ella tapped her glass, commanding attention. "I just wanted to thank Mom and Dad," she started sweetly, "because if they hadn't been so strict, I might have turned out like my irresponsible sister." She shot me a cruel glance. "I mean, crashing the car? It's honestly pathetic." My heart dropped as my family erupted into laughter. I tried to speak up, but Dad shot me a fierce warning look, hissing through clenched teeth, "Don't embarrass us further." Humiliated, I quietly left the room. As I lay awake that night, anger and hurt kept me tossing and turning. I'd spent years protecting Ella, only to have her twist the knife deeper into my back. She wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone? Fine, I'd show her the consequences. So instead of letting my emotions fester, I got strategic. The next day after school, I stayed late in the computer lab, carefully composing an email. You see, I knew Ella's greatest vulnerability, her perfectly cultivated reputation at school. She was class president, star of the debate team, and universally loved by teachers. She had everyone believing she was flawless, the exact opposite of the sister she publicly mocked. In the email addressed to the principal, teachers, and Ella's closest friends, I described with intricate detail the truth behind the lie she'd publicly laughed off. I even included the cruel Thanksgiving speech, exposing how Ella had knowingly let me take punishments meant for her, only to ridicule me later. To back it all up, I attached screenshots from texts Ella had sent me over the years, thanking me for taking the blame, apologizing for making mistakes, and admitting she felt guilty for staying silent. After triple checking the recipients, I clicked send, and within 24 hours of sending it, I regretted it. Because not only was Ella hated by everyone at school, but our parents treated her worse than ever, and it wasn't long before her life was in danger. I didn't realize how bad things would get. The day after I sent the email, I walked into school feeling weirdly powerful. The hallway seemed brighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. For once, I thought I'd taken control, but that feeling didn't last long. I spotted Bella at her locker, surrounded by her former friends. They weren't talking to her, they were just staring, whispering, and pointing. Some had their phones out, probably rereading my email or showing it to others who hadn't seen it yet. I expected to feel satisfied, but something felt wrong in my gut. Bella's shoulders were hunched, her head bowed as she fumbled with her combination lock, her hands visibly shaking even from where I stood. During lunch, I overheard some kids from the debate team talking about how Bella had been removed as president. They had an emergency meeting this morning, one girl said, leaning in conspiratorially. Unanimous vote to remove her. Someone else said the principal had called her into the office that morning. "I heard she cried the whole time," a boy added with a smirk. I picked at my sandwich, trying to ignore the growing knot in my stomach. Maybe I'd gone too far. The satisfaction I'd expected was replaced by a creeping sense of dread. When I got home that afternoon, the house was eerily quiet. Mom's car was in the driveway, but no one answered when I called out. The silence felt heavy, oppressive. I headed upstairs and found Bella's door closed. I pressed my ear against it and heard muffled crying. I almost knocked, my hand raised hesitantly, but then heard Mom's voice inside, speaking in that cold tone I knew too well. "You've embarrassed this entire family," Mom was saying. "After everything we've done for you." There was a thud, like something being thrown or slammed. "Your father and I have given you everything, and this is how you repay us? By lying? By manipulating your sister?" I backed away from the door, my heart racing. This wasn't what I wanted. I just wanted Bella to feel a fraction of what I'd felt at Thanksgiving. I didn't want our parents to use this as more ammunition against her. I knew better than anyone what their disappointment felt like, how it could crush you from the inside out. That night at dinner, Dad didn't even look at Bella. Mom served everyone but her, placing plates in front of Dad and me with exaggerated care. I watched as Bella sat at her place, eyes down, no plate in front of her. The only sound was the scraping of forks against plates and the occasional request to pass the salt. I couldn't eat. The food stuck in my throat like glue. After dinner, I snuck a sandwich up to Bella's room like old times, but her door was locked. From the inside this time. "Bella?" I whispered, knocking softly. "I brought you something to eat." No answer, just silence. I left the sandwich by the door, hoping she'd find it, but when I checked later that night, it remained untouched. The next morning, Bella didn't come down for breakfast. Mom said she wasn't feeling well and wouldn't be going to school. Her tone suggested this was Bella's choice, but something in her eyes made me wonder. I headed to school alone, the weight of what I'd done growing heavier with each step. The crisp autumn air that had felt invigorating just days ago now seemed to cut through me like tiny knives. In history class, Bella's friend Taylor glared at me from across the room. Her usual friendly demeanor was replaced by cold hostility. "You know your sister didn't come to school because someone wrote liar on her locker, right?" Taylor said as we packed up our books. "Everyone's turned on her. Hope you're happy." I wasn't happy. Not at all. I rushed home after school, skipping track practice. When I got there, I found Mom in the kitchen, on the phone with someone. Her face was pale, her knuckles white as she gripped the receiver. "Yes, we'll bring her in right away," Mom said, hanging up. She didn't even acknowledge me as she rushed upstairs. I followed, my heart pounding. Mom was banging on Bella's door, demanding she open it. When Bella finally did, I gasped. Her eyes were hollow, her face pale. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was tangled, her clothes rumpled as if she'd been wearing them for too long. Mom pushed past her into the room, and I caught a glimpse inside. There were pills scattered across Bella's desk. My blood ran cold. "What were you thinking?" Mom demanded, scooping up the pills. "Do you know how this would look for our family? Not, 'Are you okay?' or 'We love you?' Just concern about appearances." I stood frozen in the hallway as Mom called Dad, telling him to come home immediately. Bella caught my eye over Mom's shoulder, there was no anger there, just emptiness. That scared me more than anything. Dad came home and they took Bella to the hospital. They told me to stay home. I sat on my bed, shaking, scrolling through the screenshots I'd sent in that email. Messages where Bella had thanked me for being the only person who cared about her. Messages where she'd admitted feeling worthless because of how our parents treated her, and I'd used those private moments of vulnerability to destroy her. Around midnight, I heard the front door open. Voices downstairs. I crept to the top of the stairs to listen. They want to keep her for observation, Dad was saying. Said she's showing signs of severe depression. We can't let this get out, Mom replied. What will people think? First that email, now this? I slipped back to my room, disgusted. Even now, they only cared about their reputation. I lay awake all night replaying everything in my head. The years of protecting Bella, her betrayal at Thanksgiving, my revenge, and now this. I'd wanted justice, but I just made everything worse. The next morning, I skipped school. I couldn't face anyone. Instead, I sat at my computer, staring at a blank email draft. I needed to fix this somehow. I started typing an apology to Bella's friends and teachers, explaining that I'd exaggerated things out of anger. But would that even help? Or would it just make me look like the liar? I deleted the draft and headed to the hospital instead. The nurse at the front desk wouldn't let me see Bella since I wasn't 18 yet. I sat in the waiting room for hours, hoping my parents would show up. The antiseptic smell made me nauseous, and the fluorescent lights seemed to highlight every worried face that passed through. They never did. When I finally went home, I found a voicemail from the school counselor on our home phone. She wanted to speak with my parents about the concerning situation between the sisters. I deleted it before my parents could hear it. They'd only make things worse. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about all the times I'd helped Bella in secret, all the meals I'd snuck to her, all the times I'd covered for her, and how quickly she'd turned on me when it was convenient, but also how quickly I'd turned on her when I was hurt. We were both products of our parents' twisted game, pitted against each other from the start. The next day, my parents brought Bella home. She looked even worse than before, if that was possible. Her eyes were vacant, her movements slow and mechanical. Mom and Dad acted like nothing had happened. They went about their day talking about work and weather and neighbors. I tried to catch Bella's eye at dinner, but she kept her gaze fixed on her plate. She barely ate anything. After dinner, I followed her upstairs. She went straight to her room and tried to close the door, but I stuck my foot in the gap. Bella, please, I whispered. Can we talk? She looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time since Thanksgiving. What's there to talk about? Her voice was flat, emotionless. You won. Congratulations. I pushed into her room and closed the door behind me. I didn't want this, I said. I was angry about Thanksgiving, but I never wanted. What did you think would happen? She asked, sitting on her bed. You knew how they are? You knew what they do? She was right. I had known. Deep down, I'd known exactly how our parents would react. I'd spent years protecting Bella from their cruelty, only to deliberately expose her to it when I was hurt. I'm sorry, I said, the words feeling completely inadequate. I'll fix this. I'll tell everyone the truth. Bella laughed, a hollow sound that made my skin crawl. There's no fixing this. My friends hate me. The teachers think I'm a manipulative liar. And now Mom and Dad, she trailed off, her eyes filling with tears. They're sending me away. What? Where? I felt like the floor was dropping out from under me. Some boarding school in Vermont for troubled teens. She made air quotes with her fingers. They've already made the arrangements. I leave next week. I sat down hard on her desk chair. This couldn't be happening. They can't just ship you off like that. Of course they can, Bella said. They're our parents. They can do whatever they want. I spent the next few days in a fog. I went to school, came home, did homework, all on autopilot. I tried to talk to my parents about the boarding school, but they shut me down immediately. This is what's best for Bella, Mom said firmly. She needs structure and discipline. But she's not the one who needs help, I argued. You're the ones who. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. That's enough. The decision has been made. I retreated to my room feeling helpless. I had to do something, but what? I couldn't send another email. That would just make things worse. I couldn't tell a teacher or counselor. They'd never believe me over my parents, who were experts at appearing perfect to the outside world. The day before Bella was set to leave, I came home from school to find her packing. Her room looked bare, most of her belongings already in boxes or suitcases. She didn't look up when I entered. I talked to Aunt Catherine, I blurted out. Aunt Catherine was Mom's sister, who lived a few hours away. They weren't close. Mom always said Catherine was too soft for her own good. Bella paused, a folded sweater in her hands. Why? Because she's the only adult who might actually help us, I said. I told her everything. About how Mom and Dad treat you, about the car accident, about my email, everything. Bella's eyes widened. You didn't? I did. And she believed me. She's coming tomorrow morning before you're supposed to leave for Vermont. For the first time in weeks, I saw a flicker of something other than emptiness in Bella's eyes. Hope, maybe, or at least curiosity. What's she going to do? Bella asked. I don't know exactly, I admitted, but she said she wasn't going to let them send you away like this. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining worst-case scenarios. What if Aunt Catherine didn't show up? What if she did? But Mom and Dad convinced her everything was fine. What if they sent Bella away anyway? Morning came too quickly. I got up early and peeked out my window. No sign of Aunt Catherine yet. Downstairs, Mom and Dad were already up, drinking coffee and checking the time frequently. Bella's suitcases were by the front door. She sat at the kitchen table, picking at a piece of toast. The car will be here at 9, Dad announced, checking his watch. Make sure you have everything packed, Bella. I glanced at the clock. 8:30. Where was Aunt Catherine? At 8:45, the doorbell rang. Mom went to answer it, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I heard her surprised voice. Catherine, what are you doing here? Aunt Catherine swept into the house like a force of nature. She was tall and imposing, with the same dark hair as Mom, but with kind eyes that Mom had never possessed. I came to talk about Bella, she said, her voice firm, and about what's been going on in this house. Dad stood up, his face reddening. This is a family matter, Catherine. You have no right to interfere. I have every right when it involves the welfare of my nieces, Aunt Catherine replied. She turned to Bella. Go upstairs and unpack your things. You're not going anywhere today. Mom stepped between them. You can't just come in here and. Actually, I can, Aunt Catherine interrupted. She pulled out her phone and showed them something on the screen. I've been recording our conversations for weeks, I heard her say quietly. Every time you've talked about how you treat Bella, every time you've admitted to punishing her unfairly, every time you've talked about sending her away to hide your own failures as parents. Mom's face went white. Dad started sputtering about privacy and legality. I don't want to make this public, Aunt Catherine continued. I don't want to involve the authorities, but I will if I have to. I stood frozen on the stairs, hardly daring to breathe. I told Aunt Catherine everything, but I hadn't expected her to come in with actual evidence. She must have been planning this for longer than I realized. What do you want? Mom finally asked, her voice tight. I want Bella to come live with me, Aunt Catherine said, and I want you both to get help, real help, from professionals who can teach you how to be proper parents. Dad started to object, but Mom put a hand on his arm. They exchanged a look I couldn't interpret. Fine, Mom said after a long pause. Take her. It's probably for the best anyway. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were giving up that easily, just letting Bella go. Aunt Catherine turned to me then. You too, if you want. My house is big enough for both of you. I hesitated. Leave home? Leave everything I knew? But then I looked at my parents, really looked at them, and saw the coldness in their eyes, the calculation. They were already thinking about how to spin this, how to explain Bella's absence to friends and neighbors. Yes, I said firmly. I want to come too. The next few hours were a blur. Aunt Catherine helped us pack our things while Mom and Dad retreated to their study, whispering furiously to each other. By afternoon, Bella and I were in Aunt Catherine's car, our essential belongings crammed into the trunk and back seat. As we pulled away from the house, I looked back at the place I'd grown up. It had never felt like a real home, I realized. Just a stage where we all played our assigned roles. What happens now? Bella asked quietly from the back seat. Aunt Catherine met my eyes in the rearview mirror before answering. Now we start over. Together. The first few weeks at Aunt Catherine's house were strange. Her home was smaller than our parents, but somehow felt bigger, warmer. She gave us each our own room and told us the only rules were honesty and respect. No punishments, no comparing us to each other, no mind games. Bella was still distant with me. She talked to Aunt Catherine easily enough, but with me, conversations were short and guarded. I couldn't blame her. The damage I'd done with that email couldn't be erased overnight. One night, about a month after we'd moved in, I found Bella sitting on the back porch, wrapped in a blanket despite the mild evening. I sat down beside her, leaving plenty of space between us. I miss my friends, she said after a while, even though they all hate me now. We could go back to visit, I suggested. Maybe if they saw you, talked to you in person. Bella shook her head. It's not just that. I miss who I was before. Class president, debate team, the girl everyone liked and respected. She looked at me then, her eyes shining with tears. You took that from me. The accusation hung in the air between us. I wanted to defend myself, to remind her about Thanksgiving, about how she turned on me first. But what was the point? We'd both been pawns in our parents' twisted game. I know, I said simply, and I'm sorry. I really am. Bella didn't respond, but she didn't get up and leave either. We sat in silence, watching the stars come out one by one. The next day, Aunt Catherine announced she'd enrolled us in the local high school. Time to stop hiding, she said. You both need to be around other kids your age. I was terrified, starting over at a new school in the middle of the year, but Bella surprised me by seeming almost excited. No one there knows us, she pointed out. No one's read that email. We can be whoever we want to be. Our first day was awkward, but not terrible. The students were curious about the new kids, but not unfriendly. A girl named Olivia invited us to sit with her at lunch. A boy called Kai showed us where the library was. By the end of the week, we'd settled into a routine, but things with Bella were still tense. At school, we barely acknowledged each other. At home, our conversations were polite but superficial. The wall between us felt insurmountable. Then one Saturday, Aunt Catherine had to work late. Bella and I were alone in the house, avoiding each other as usual. I was in my room doing homework when I heard a crash from downstairs. I ran down to find Bella in the kitchen, surrounded by broken glass. She'd dropped a pitcher of lemonade. For a moment, we both froze. The scene was so familiar. Bella making a mistake, me witnessing it. In our parents' house, this would have meant punishment. Skipped meals, locked doors, harsh words. Bella's face crumpled. I'm sorry, she whispered, backing away from the mess. I didn't mean to. It just slipped. I realized with a jolt that she was afraid. Not of me, but of the patterns we'd both been conditioned to expect. Without thinking, I grabbed a towel and knelt to clean up the glass. It's just lemonade, I said. No big deal. Bella stared at me for a long moment, then slowly knelt beside me. We cleaned up the mess together, neither of us speaking. When we finished, Bella looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Remember when I spilled juice on Mom's white rug? She asked. And they made me skip dinner for 3 days? I nodded. I snuck you those peanut butter sandwiches. You always did, Bella said quietly. Until Thanksgiving. I winced. Bella, about that night. No, let me finish, she interrupted. I was awful to you that night, and all the days before it, after the car accident, when you took the blame for me. She took a deep breath. I was relieved at first, but then I saw how they treated you, how angry they were, and I got scared. I thought if I joined in, if I became the daughter they wanted me to be, they'd finally love me. I remembered how quickly Bella had changed after the accident, how she'd gone from my secret ally to my public enemy. It had hurt so much at the time, but now I could see the desperate calculation behind it. It didn't work, did it? I asked gently. Bella shook her head. Number nothing ever worked with them. And then when everyone at school turned on me after your email, she looked down at her hands. I realized I'd thrown away the only person who ever really cared about me. For nothing. I didn't know what to say. We'd both made terrible mistakes. We'd both hurt each other deeply. But sitting there in Aunt Catherine's sunny kitchen, the broken glass cleaned up with no punishments looming, I felt something shift between us. We can't go back, I said finally. But maybe we can start over? Bella looked up, her eyes meeting mine directly for the first time in months. I'd like that, she said softly. That night, we stayed up late talking, really talking, in a way we never had before, about our parents and their mind games, about the ways we'd been pitted against each other our whole lives, about the damage we'd both carried and the damage we'd done to each other. Do you think they ever loved us? Bella asked as the night grew late. Even a little bit? I thought about it. I think they loved the idea of us, I said finally. The perfect family they could show off to the world, but actual us, with our messy feelings and mistakes and needs? No, I don't think they knew how to love that. Bella nodded, her eyes sad but clear. Aunt Catherine does though. Yeah, I agreed. She does. The next morning, I woke to find a note slipped under my door. It was from Bella. Thank you for the sandwiches, it read. All of them. The ones from before, and the ones still to come. I smiled, folding the note carefully and tucking it into my desk drawer. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, not yet, but it was a beginning. Over the next few months, Bella and I slowly rebuilt our relationship, not as the forced allies we'd been under our parents' roof, but as real sisters. We still argued sometimes. We still had moments where old hurts resurfaced, but we talked through them instead of letting them fester. Aunt Catherine watched our progress with quiet approval. She never pushed us to reconcile, never compared us to each other, never used one sister's success to diminish the other. She just provided the safe space we needed to heal. Our parents called occasionally, their voices stiff and formal. They never asked how we were doing, not really. They talked about appearances, what to tell the neighbors, how to explain our absence at family gatherings. Aunt Catherine handled most of these calls, shielding us from their manipulation. One day in spring, about 6 months after we'd moved in with Aunt Catherine, Bella came home from school practically glowing. She'd been elected to student council at our new school. It's not class president, she said, trying to downplay her excitement, just regular council member, but still. That's amazing, I said, genuinely happy for her. They're lucky to have you. Bella smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Thanks. Oh, and Olivia invited us both to her birthday party next weekend. Wanna go? Us both? I repeated, surprised. Bella had made friends more quickly than I had at the new school. Yeah, of course, Bella said as if it were the most natural thing in the world. We're a package deal now, right? A package deal. Not competitors. Not one favored and one scorned. Just sisters, facing the world together. I felt something warm unfurl in my chest. Right, I agreed. A package deal. That night, I lay awake thinking about how far we'd come. From a house where every gift had to be shared, every achievement diminished, every mistake punished, to this new life where we could each shine without dimming the other, where broken glass meant nothing more than a mess to clean up, where notes under doors carried love instead of desperate pleas for help. We weren't fully healed yet. Bella still had nightmares about the hospital. I still felt guilty about the email. We both flinched sometimes when we made mistakes. The old fear of punishment hard to shake. But we were getting there, step by step. And as I drifted off to sleep, I realized something important. The revenge I'd sought that day in the computer lab wasn't what I'd really wanted at all. What I'd wanted, what we'd both wanted all along, was simply to be seen, to be valued, to be loved without conditions or comparisons. In Aunt Catherine's house, we'd finally found that. And together, we were learning how to offer it to each other too.